Hey everybody, welcome to Eagles Game Plan presented by Toyota. I'm John Clark. We are not on a bye week. We are here to break down some of the best third down plays this year by the Eagles. They're fourth in the NFL, 48% on third down. None better than those 4 third down conversions on that 8-minute drive to seal the win against the Bears. Let's look at a bunch of them from this year. Here's Tape Study presented by Chickies and Pete's with the head coach Doug Peterson and our own Ike Reese.
Joining me for Tape Study this week, Eagles head coach Doug Peterson. Coach, first of all, congratulations on a big win this week.
You bet.
Now, you guys, after 9 games, one of the top 5 teams in the league on third down. And you always talk about having success on first and second down, put you in a position to be successful on third down. So we want to take a look at some of the plays, how you can convert on third down in different ways.
Okay. All right.
So let's take a look here. You guys are set up here 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and you got a nice man coverage here. Walk us through this play.
Yeah, so obviously it starts during the week, and it starts with Mike Rowe and Carson Walsh, and they really dive into the third down package. Some of the other assistant coaches, really, we spend a lot of time in situational football, third down, red zone, short yardage, goal line situations. So obviously third down, we spend a lot of time. We do this in OTAs. We also do this in training camp. So we get real specific here, meaning plays are designed to beat certain coverages on third down. So in this case, we're going to bring a little motion, with Zach Ertz right here. We're going to try to get a little man zone indicator. They're presenting a 5-man front right here, so we anticipate all 5 guys to pressure rush in this situation. And then we're just going to try to isolate, in this case, a high-low on a flat defender is really what we're trying to do. Okay, so we can, one of the biggest things here, we'll send Nelly across, we'll put Ertz down the field, and then we go one-on-one there with Alshon underneath the entire coverage. So right here, they pop back. Obviously you got the window there if Carson wants it around this hook curl. So you got a nice little high-low on the backside. But then again, we're trying to isolate our big bodies right in front of Carson. So this again was a great play design. Alshon did a great job of slipping inside that defender and then catching the football and staying on the field. We talk about staying on the field. You talk about first and second down, but putting us in more manageable third downs to stay on the field.
And I know as a defense, playing under Jim Johnson as a defensive coordinator, we want to get you to this 3rd and long situation so we can try to bring extra guys, right? Give you some different looks, bring some pressure. Now, I know for you guys on third down, picking up pass protection is always critical.
It is critical, especially when you got guys like this. Khalil Mack sitting over here on your tight end. So, again, this was a situation, I believe it was 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 13 in this football game. Again, they're presenting a look where possibly 59 is going to blitz your back to try to keep your back in so your back cannot get out in protection. That's what the teams do quite a bit. So we know that they've got at least four known rushers. They're playing man-to-man here, and ultimately they're playing man-to-man there on our back. So what ends up happening here in this protection scheme, 59 just gets caught up in the A-gap, so his eyes are a little bit off of 26. 26 is he's showing protection, and then he just slips out. Well, 59 gets caught up in the wash, and Carson does a great job, eyes down the field. There's where he gets caught up. Miles is getting out. Carson does a great job. Nice, accurate throw. Miles obviously does the rest right there to get the first down. So, again, taking advantage of situational football. Got a nice little matchup on 59, who, again, his eyes get caught up in that A-gap in the wash, and then these two guys making a play down the field.
And then the importance of Miles on that play, Coach. He's scanning for his blitz responsibility, He's looking to see where he has to go. And then he knows that if this guy isn't going, he gets to release there.
He gets to release. So as you know, playing linebacker, sometimes you hug rush the back to try to keep him in, green dog it just a little bit, because he also knows that if you're going to do that, then I can also get out. So, it kind of goes back. It's that cat and mouse game that you play within the game. And we obviously won on this one. It was a big third down to keep this drive alive and, ultimately help us win the game.
Yeah, nice job of Carson taking that dump off there. And then on third down, Coach, sometimes you can have the right play drawn up offensively, but then the defense sort of figures it out or sniffs it out, and then it's sort of just left up to your playmakers to make a play.
Exactly right. We're 3rd and 10 right here in the Buffalo game, and, it's critical time of the game. We knew this was a team that they're going to put 5, maybe 6 rushers at the line of scrimmage. They're going to come after your quarterback a little bit, try to force you to punt the football. So I elected to go with a single receiver screen, thinking, let's get the ball out. We got blockers coming. Here comes the tackle. But what ends up happening is this player right here gets in the vision, kind of gets in the throwing lane for Carson there to throw it to the outside. So Carson ends up pulling it down. Well, look at this wall of white shirts. Now, this is a broken play, and sometimes we ask our quarterback to do things, that he's capable of doing, extending plays. Well, this is a way to extend the play. Does a great job in this critical situation, stay on the field, and so he just made a play, which he's very capable of doing.
Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local Tri-State Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.
You feel it? You're about to go off. Feel it?
Got to.
Hell! We taking over tonight! I'm mic'd up, man. I'm mic'd up.
Hey, ref. They already hold me, so get ready. They already hold me.
They can't hold you, though. You're so good, they can't hold you.
All right, let's make some plays now. Let's go. Let's go.
I'm mic'd up. I'm mic'd up now.
Boy, I'm coming after your ass, boy. You better know that. 2-0. You know I got love and respect for you, boy. I know. All love.
I'm mic'd up. I'm mic'd up.
Oh, okay, big man. All right.
Wentz looking, fires, complete, touchdown. He's got his man, Alshon Jeffrey.
Hey! Yo! Baby! I ain't gonna say nothing else. All I'm gonna see is ball on the ground. Scoop and scope.
All right, that's cool to hear all the players and what's going on when they're mic'd up for the first half of the season. Mike Quick joining us now. And Mike, how about the Eagles running game? They have really found something. They're sticking with it. 364 rushing yards the last 2 games. What is it they're doing especially well in the running game?
They're just winning at the line of scrimmage, and a lot of it is they start with double teams, and you watch this. Boom, boom, that double team right there, this double team. And then they get off to the second level. They're so good at the double team and then getting up to the next level. Look how they wash that entire defensive front down, and a nice backside run by Jordan Howard. This is a tone setter. This set the tone of the entire football game, the fact that they can control the line of scrimmage, they can knock these guys off the ball. And John, against the Chicago Bears, that drive at the end of the game to close out the game, that's big.
Self-Scouting is brought to you by Rothman Institute at Jefferson, the official orthopedic and healthcare partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
We know the run game with Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders has been absolutely critical in the last 2 wins. And it's going to have to be just as important moving forward. But one thing that is just as important is that the Eagles will have to create some explosive plays in the pass game. And they're going to have to do it without Deshaun Jackson. So what's important here? The design of the offense. How you create those explosive pass plays. We've seen a few examples in recent weeks. One was against the Minnesota Vikings. It's a play that we call all go H seam. And what you see here is Miles Sanders. He's going to run the H seam, the vertical seam route from the backfield. He's the halfback. But the Eagles create that with the complementary routes in a closed formation to the boundary. They also add in jet action with Nelson Aguilar, and that's important because what that does is it grabs the eyes of Eric Kendricks, who's responsible for Sanders in man-to-man coverage. Kendricks stops his feet for a beat, Sanders runs right by him, Wentz hits Sanders for the seam touchdown. That's the kind of play that the Eagles will have to make going forward. So here's the following week against the Cowboys. This is going to be the same concept, different personnel. 2 backs, a tight end, Dallas Goedert, and 2 wide receivers. What do you see here? Jordan Howard going in motion to the field. Sanders will run the H-seam route again. This time, Dallas Goedert, from the same side of the formation, will run the vertical over route. So here, Carson Wentz, when he's ready to throw the football, Sanders is not available on that H-seam. So what does he do? He looks to Goedert. Goedert is running his over route against a linebacker, Leighton Vander Esch, and he hits Goedert for a touchdown. So you see 2 touchdowns that come from the same basic concept, all go H seam. It's a great route concept that gives Carson Wentz options depending on the coverage. One was against man, one was against cover 3. But it's all part of a bigger picture moving forward, using different personnel packages, different formations, different motions to create opportunities in the pass game for explosive 20-plus yard completions. That's what the Eagles have to do as they come off their bye week.
All right, the big plays are coming from the running backs and the tight ends. And a shout out to Zach Ertz. 100 games in the NFL, 3rd most catches in his first 100 games in NFL history for a tight end. That's pretty impressive. He went over 100 yards this past week. What is Zach Ertz, if you can find him again with this offense, what does he mean to the Birds offense?
Well, I mean, he's huge. To me, he's always been a guy that on 3rd down, he's a security blanket, he's a chain mover, and that's what you want, and particularly in the red zone. In the past, he's been a huge threat, so it was nice to see him get a touchdown, even though it was right outside the red zone. It was nice to see him get in the end zone, because that's what we're accustomed to seeing when it comes to Zach Ertz.
For a quarterback, usually the tight end is his best friend on the field. It's an easier throw to get to the tight end versus going out wide to the wide receivers. And Zach Ertz does so many things. He creates so many mismatches for defense. He's hard to cover. For a linebacker, he's difficult to cover. For the safeties, he's difficult to cover because he's bigger than most safeties. He is a valuable asset to this offense. He can do so many things.
So what does the Eagles offense have to do for the rest of the year? What's the formula? Because you're missing Deshaun Jackson to win these games down the stretch.
You adjust. You adjust to your strengths. And if that's going to be Zach Ertz and getting Zach Ertz on those mismatches, you're going to do that. If that's going to be Miles Sanders and creating plays for Miles Sanders, you're going to do that. But to me, it always begins with the big guys up front and how well they can control the line of scrimmage.
He's exactly right there, and they're going to have to be able to give the quarterback time to be able to get the ball down the field. If you're asking me over the last 7 games what this offense is going to need to do to get to where we want them to get, which is postseason play, they're going to have to get plays made on the outside. Your receivers are going to have to do a better job of being consistent. When the ball comes their way, Carson is going to have to give them catchable balls to be able to make plays, and when there's opportunities there, you're going to have to take advantage of those opportunities. It's one thing to have a formula for running the ball, but if you're going to keep a defense honest, you're going to have a threat of going down the field with the football. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if the quarterback and the receivers have confidence that they can make plays down the field.
All right, let's talk some Eagles defense. It's going to make Ike Reese smile when you look at some of this and the pressures they're getting. 7 sacks the last 2 games. What is it the Eagles defensive line is doing so well to get the pressure these last couple weeks?
Well, first of all, I believe the guys up front are much healthier, right? We'll get into that in a little bit. But also, I think scheme-wise, Jim Schwartz, Philip Daniels, they're doing a nice job of trying to get their best pass rushers matched up on the weak links on the offensive line. So what you're going to see here versus the Chicago Bears, you got Derek Barnett on the outside, you got Brandon Graham in the middle, and Fletcher Cox here, right? But you have Nate Gary, Malcolm Jenkins, and Josh Sweat on this side. So what you want to do is get these guys locked up over here, one-on-one, right? You want to get the back, the guard, and the tackle on this side locked up on Jenkins, Sweat, and Nate Gary so that Barnett, Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox are able to expose the 3 linemen over here. And then you're going to get Brandon doing a great job of hitting this gap, Fletcher doing a great job of starting down the center of the guard there, the center there, and then working there, all to get Derek Barnett a free rush on the inside there.
And that is a great wrinkle, Ike Reese, from Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, and the disguise here is Nate Gary really is spying on Mitchell Trubisky because he's a quarterback that likes to run around a little bit. Malcolm Jenkins here is really man-to-man on Montgomery in the backfield. And then you're going to have Josh Sweat lined up here on the outside. And really, you just want the one-on-one situations. We have the better athletes on the defensive side of the ball. This play gets Derek Barnett in there free. Trubisky is able to escape, but because you got Sweat here on the backside, he's there as a contain, and then he's able to get the sack there on Mitchell Trubisky.
And for a while, everybody was wondering, where is the Eagles' sacks? Well, only 8 teams have more sacks now. They have 24, so it's really coming together, and I think you have to combine that with the health of Fletcher Cox. He has looked like a beast the last 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, and that's a big part of it, getting Fletcher healthy and, more importantly, sort of in game condition, game shape. I think that's why you're starting to see Fletcher over the last couple of weeks. It really started for me in that Minnesota game. You started to see flashes of him. But really, the the last 2 weeks, Fletcher has spent a lot of time in the opposing team's backfield. His pass rushing mate in Brandon Graham, his play has skyrocketed due to the fact that Fletcher has drawn so much attention. If this defense is going to continue to play it the way they have over the last 2 or 3 weeks, 91 is going to be a big part of it. And the fact that he's starting to look healthy and strong, the way that we are accustomed to seeing him look, this bodes well for this defense over the second half of the season.
There is no question that Fletcher Cox had a big impact on the Eagles' win against the Chicago Bears, and that bodes well moving forward after the bye week. But there are some things that defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz did that I really, really liked, and they turned out very well against the Bears. And one of those things was what we call a long stunt. I want to show you this sack, and there's a couple of different elements to it, and it really does start in some ways with Fletcher Cox, because you'll see where he's lined up right here, and you'll notice what the Bears do from a protection standpoint. The offensive center will actually slide toward Fletcher Cox because he's such a force as a pass rusher when he's playing well as he did against the Bears. Now, what the Eagles did on the other side of the formation was really cool, and they did it a number of times in this game with different personnel. You'll see from outside in Jannard Avery, Derek Barnett, and Brandon Graham. Now, what they're going to do here is run what we call a long stick or a long stunt, with Avery looping behind both Graham and Barnett. Now, what they're hoping happens here with the center sliding toward Cox is for Avery to be clean through the A-gap. But the Bears do a really nice job of picking it up, and one reason they do that is they have the back, David Montgomery, on that side of the formation as part of the pass protection. The other element, though, that's really important here is the Eagles were in man-to-man coverage, and Malcolm Jenkins is responsible for Montgomery in coverage. So what does Jenkins do? When Montgomery stays into pass protect, Jenkins adds into the pass rush. That's called a green dog. So what you get here is the long stunt away from Fletcher Cox, Jenkins adding into the pressure mix, and a sack that goes to both Jenkins and Avery. But keep in mind, much of this occurred because of how the Bears chose to deal with Fletcher Cox in pass protection. So there's a lot to look forward to defensively after the bye.
All right, we hear the name Jannard Avery. He wasn't even on this team 2 weeks ago. So when you think about all the players that they've added in, the Eagles have used more players than any other team in the NFL this year. Jannard Avery on defensive line, a couple guys off the practice squad to play next to Fletcher Cox, all the linebackers that they've brought in, and then the injuries at cornerback where they've mixed and matched there. How incredible of a coaching job has this been for Jim Schwartz and the defensive coaches?
It's been very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it really has been, and it's part of the coach's job, right? They have to adapt. You know, your players go down, you bring guys in, you got to get them caught up to speed as quickly as possible, and then you have to devise a game plan that doesn't necessarily, it is beneficial to their strengths versus what they aren't very well at doing. And I think Jim Schwartz and his staff have handled the fact that they've lost guys just about every week. They've handled it pretty well.
Well, and even the personnel guys, to bring in guys like Avery who can fit what they want to do. I think they've done a masterful job of piecing together this defense when they're losing a lot of people. They lose the cornerbacks on the outside. They're able to make it work. They lose their big guys on the inside. They bring in guys, they're able to make it work.
All right, we broke it down for you how the Eagles could possibly push this team into the playoffs. On offense, they're going to try to have to get some big plays without Deshaun Jackson. On defense, they're healthy. How can they keep the disruption going with that defensive line? Next up, the 8-1 Patriots. By the way, the Eagles have won 2 straight against them. All right, for more X's and O's breakdowns, check out the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast, wherever podcasts are available. We appreciate you watching this bye-week edition of Eagles Game Plan, presented by Toyota. Eagles Game Plan is brought to you by your local tri-state Toyota dealers, a proud automotive partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. NovaCare Rehabilitation, the power of physical therapy. And by McDonald's. I'm loving it.